All right. Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to, I think, maybe like our ninth or 10th edition of this live streaming session. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Matthew Ulason. I am one of our Google Cloud training architects here at Linux Academy. And what we do is every Thursday morning is we take suggestions from you folks about different types of things that you want to see demonstrated for a live demo session on a variety of Google Cloud topics. We take those suggestions and we do it. About as simple as that. Really, the main point of these is to teach people new things. We really love it if you are from a beginner's perspective. So if you're brand new to Google Cloud, it's kind of intimidating to you, you have no idea what you're doing, you are more than welcome here. And we are definitely happy that you are here. Now, this is an interactive chat, so definitely feel free to type in the chat there. I am actively looking at it at my right monitor over here. My left monitor is the stuff you're seeing, so you may see me looking back and forth like some sort of a tennis match. I'm just looking back and forth, that's all. Before we get started, I always like to just kind of see where everyone's from and see what everyone's learning this week. So if you don't mind, while I am getting set up, let me know where you're from, where you're watching us from today, and also, if you don't mind, and if it applies to you, what is something new that you have learned this week that, whether it's Google Cloud or just whatever it is in your own professional development, I'm always interested in the new stuff people are doing. For myself, I am continuing to learn more about Deployment Manager, especially because we're going to be using that for Google Cloud Labs coming up, hopefully in the very near future. I've also been really diving into Spinnaker lately, which is an open source application used for automating the process of deploying applications to Kubernetes engine and other stuff as well. I actually really want to do a Spinnaker demo this week, but the more I was jumping into it, I realized just that there's so much there. It's going to be kind of a challenge trying to pare that down for a 45-minute demo and not just completely blow through it and lose everyone. I want to try to do it next week. I can't make any promises on that, but I'm working on how to pare that down to be digestible enough where we cover it thoroughly, but still not have it be a 2 hour long stream because there is really a lot there. But it's really, really cool stuff. Basically, how it works is it automatically deploys applications for you without you having to manually do it yourself, which is pretty cool, actually. Got some people from all over the place. Salt Lake City, Washington, D.C., India. Awesome. I'm actually in the Kansas City area, so I am smack dab in the middle of the country. It's starting to be fall time here soon. It needs to rain because I planted grass seed and it's not growing, and I also stink at gardening, so there's that. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our demo today. First of all, if this is your first time here, what we do is based on what you suggest. So we have this Google form here. It's linked to the video description. I'm also going to go ahead and paste the link in chat right now. And basically, what I'm doing every Thursday is what you want to see. Now, I try to mix it up between advanced and beginner topics. We want to try to get a good mix in there. We've done kind of beginner topics for the past couple of weeks. We're going to do maybe kind of an intermediate one this week. May do an advanced one the week after that. So we tend to go back and forth. And so far, we've gotten really a lot of great responses here. Pretty simple Google form. The only required field is what do you want to see? Optionally, if you want to give your name and email address in case I need to follow up with you for clarification, that's great. I'm not going to sign you up for spam, I promise. That's just if I need a little bit more clarification. And we've gotten some really good responses back. We've gone over Deployment Manager. We've gone over the Google Cloud SDK. Today, we are going to use Aziz's request that he's actually requested a number of times before, talking about how to configure site-to-site VPN connection from either Google to another cloud provider or to an on-premises setup. So Aziz, I hope you're here today because this one is for you, and that is what we are doing today. So we are going to be talking about Google Cloud VPN today, just kind of VPN in general. And a little bit of a big picture view. If you're not familiar with how VPN works, basically, if you're working with a cloud provider or some sort of a remote network, whether it's on the cloud or just physically somewhere else, not in your own actual building, and you want to be able to communicate with servers and resources in your building, but you don't want to communicate over the public internet because, it's public and not really the most secure, you set up a VPN connection, which is, of course, short for Virtual Private Network. And how a VPN connection works, there are a variety of protocols possible. The Cloud VPN uses what's called IPsec protocol for that. It creates an encrypted tunnel over the public internet, but it creates a private encrypted tunnel that no one else can actually access. And that allows you to connect an on-premises network, so your data center, servers, whatever, with your cloud provider. And what that basically means is that your Google Cloud network, via a VPN gateway over an IPsec encrypted tunnel, is able to communicate with your internal network and server resources as if they were basically in the same building or on the same private network. Now, if you ever worked in enterprises before in IT, I'm sure you're probably familiar with this. That's basically how it works. I see Stefan's getting ready for the Cloud Practitioner exam for AWS. And says, hey, good luck with that. You know what? I don't really know as much about AWS as I should. I'm pretty much the all-in as a Google Cloud zealot. I probably need to get around to at least getting introductory knowledge of AWS as well. So that may be kind of on my list as well. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so what we're going to basically do today is for our actual demonstration is that we are going to create on the Google Cloud side two completely separate networks. So we're going to have within the same project a VPC network called Network 1 and a network called Network 2. And these are two networks. These instances have no communication with each other. They don't know that the other one exists. Now, unfortunately, we can't really demonstrate working with an on-premises router because simply I don't have any on-premises routers available. So it may not be the most perfect setup, but I'm going to at least hopefully go over the basics from the Google Cloud side of how you need to configure your Cloud VPN setup to be able to connect to those. Now, I do want to put a little asterisk on this is that since we're doing it from cloud to cloud, so under ideal scenarios, this is under an ideal scenario. When you're dealing with hardware routers, whether working with maybe something with Cisco or SonicWall or whatever other hardware router manufacturers out there, you're going to have a bunch of extra little variables that aren't going to come up on this demonstration that may be manufacturer and model specific that you have to deal with in order to get connected to those routers over VPN. Again, we're unfortunately not going to be able to demonstrate that far, but we are at least going to demonstrate the Google Cloud side so we can at least see how the ideal scenario works, which, if you're doing this live, would at least give you a springboard or a reference point for dealing with the actual hardware side as well. Pal Gixer asks, hey Matt, how is Spinnaker different from App Engine? Excellent question. So, little sidetrack here. App Engine is basically one of the Google Cloud compute platforms for deploying an application and actually hosting and running and scaling the application itself. Spinnaker is an application that can help deploy your code to App Engine. So you can kind of think of it as the get your code into App Engine process, and App Engine is what actually hosts it, scales it, lets you manage versions and stuff like that. So Spinnaker actually feeds into App Engine, so they're both pretty complementary from there. Excellent question. Thank you for that. Okay, so what we're going to do, I think I'm repeating myself here, is that we have two separate networks here, and it's already set up in our demo account here, which we'll get to here in just a second. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the Managed Cloud VPN service. This is a managed service that Google hosts to connect these two completely separate networks and be able to have them communicate with each other over their internal IP addresses as if they were on the same network. Now, again, this is a managed service we're doing. It is always possible to do it the manual way by creating a compute engine instance and creating your own OpenSwan or StrongSwan or LibreSwan or either one of those open source VPN servers, and that may be a lesson for another day. We're going to be working with the Cloud VPN managed service itself, which is different from doing a physical box, but there's quite a bit of capability within it as well. Ali asks, can you tell me what is different with L2TP or point-to-point protocol VPN difference? I believe L2TP, I forget what that means. I'm completely spacing out on the actual definition of that, is a valid protocol for today. The Cloud VPN service only works with IPsec. So if I go back to my other tab here, it doesn't work with the Road Warrior setup where it's like a laptop to cloud VPN. It's only from router to router only. So if you need something other than IPsec, Cloud VPN is not the service for you. Point-to-point protocol is an older protocol method that's considered to be insecure today, so you probably shouldn't be using point-to-point or PPTP. So Cloud VPN service is IPsec only, L2TP, and point-to-point tunneling protocol or other protocols that unfortunately we're not going to be able to cover today, but they are other methods of being able to connect over VPN. IPsec only for this demo, so just keep that in mind. If you need something else, you may need a different solution. So again, big picture view before we jump into the actual demo is, if I quit moving my windows around, for the managed Google Cloud VPN service, as I mentioned earlier, it allows you to connect an external network, such as one on-premises or maybe another cloud provider, to a Google Cloud VPC network. So basically, the Google Cloud internal network, so it can act as an internal network resource, even though it is separated by distance. It is site-to-site only, that is router-to-router. If you're looking to dial into VPN with your laptop, it does not support that. I believe L2TP is used for the Road Warrior setup. I'm not 100% sure on that. I can look it up later if you want me to. But IPsec is not. And also keep in mind, with the Google Cloud VPN, you do need to manage your firewall access. So even with our VPN tunnels up, you don't set up firewall rules for the VPN tunnels itself, but for any of your resources, like instances to communicate, you need to configure appropriate firewall rules for those, such as port 22 for SSH, ICMP, or whatever else. Basic graph is from an on-premises setup. You have your on-premises data center, servers, etc. You'll have some sort of a router, whether it's a Cisco router or a SonicWall router or whatever other hardware manufacturer. You would set up an IPsec encrypted tunnel from your on-premises location over to the managed Google Cloud VPN Gateway. And that VPN Gateway will be attached to your network, your Google Cloud VPC network, which will then let your Google Cloud resources, such as our two example instances here, be able to communicate with this data center here over an internal network connection as if they were in the same building. That's basically the short version of it. Elliot asks if you have any courses on Udemy and want to buy a VPN link. We don't have any courses on Udemy. We do have courses on Linux Academy. And actually, if you're interested, I believe that the Google Cloud Essentials course is free with the Community Edition for the rest of September, which is like 3 days away. So if you're not currently a Linux Academy subscriber, go ahead and get the Community Edition account. You can maybe plow through the Essentials course if you want to. I do believe we cover networking and VPN in there, so you can go ahead and jump into that. Okay, so what we're going to do for our demo here is, if I get that bar out of the way, we're going to use the Managed Cloud VPN service. If I can quit playing peekaboo with my menu bar. Give me a second. There we go. We're going to create two networks. Network 1 is going to have a single instance in the US West 1 region. Our second network that does not know that the first one exists has two subnets, subnet B in US Central and also subnet C in US East 1. All this is already set up except our middle portion, in which we're going to create a VPN gateway and also a tunnel to connect one network to the other. That's going to be our demo for today. And how we're going to do this is we're going to go side-by-side Windows setup here. The text is kind of small. There's a lot to jam in. Let me know if the text is too small. I can zoom in a bit. I may have to kind of play with it because half screen and zoomed in text on Google Cloud Console can just get a little weird sometimes. But anyway, let me know if you have any issues seeing that. So before we get started, this infrastructure here is already set up. We have our two networks. Go away, menu bar. We have our two networks. We need to create the VPN tunnel. If you want to go ahead and just jump right into it yourself, I have a script I have created that I've also linked in the video description, that if you run this script from the link in the demo video description in your Google Cloud Console, it's going to go ahead and create all this for you. So the script here will let you create everything from scratch. So you run the script, you have this up and running, and you can go ahead and follow along and practice as well. Also, I have also published the Lucidchart document, which is what you're looking at on the right side here as well, also in the video description. So if you happen to have two monitors, you can go ahead and click on that link, pull it up, And when I update IP addresses, it'll even update in real time on your end, so you can go ahead and follow along with what I'm doing on there. All right, enough prerequisites. I feel like I've been kind of blabbing on there. So what we're going to do here is we have our two networks. We have 3 subnets total, 1 in network 1, 2 in network 2, and we're going to use the Cloud VPN managed service to create a gateway into tunnel from one network over to the other. Let's go ahead and jump in and start doing that. So first thing I need to do is we need to make sure that we have reserved 2 static IP addresses, which that script will do for you. And if I go over to networks and external IP addresses, what we are going to do is we are going to create 2 gateways and attach an external address that we already have for each of our associated regions to our VPN gateway. So step 1 is going to be create our gateway for each of these here. Zoom in on that. To that, we'll go to our top left menu. You can do all this via the command line as well, but it's a little bit easier to follow along with the web console. So we're going to go ahead and do that for our demo. Underneath networking, go to hybrid connectivity, and then click on VPN. First thing we're going to do is we're going to create our first VPN connection. That's going to be this thing right here, our left VPN gateway right here. And I'm going to leave these charts up side by side so you can follow along and see what I'm doing. And I'll kind of point out each step of the process for the middle part of our right chart. I'm pointing as if you can see what I'm pointing at, as we follow along with the left side as well. So when you go ahead and create our VPN gateway, we're just going to go ahead and give it a name of VPN1. That works perfectly fine for me. This VPN gateway is going to be attached to network 1, which is our network right here. We could do network 2 as well. The region for network 1 is going to be US West 1. The region does matter. You want to make sure you're attaching it where you actually have resources. And we need to take a reserved static IP address, and I already created one in advance via that script, just simply called it network 1 static IP. And that's going to be this 35.203, etc. IP address from here. And I'm going to want to go ahead and update my chart here with that IP address because I'm going to use that for my point of reference. Let's see, 35.203. 170.165. And I want to copy that onto my other tab we're going to be doing for more demos here in a second. Let's go back to here. Next, now that we have the gateway set up, we need to create the tunnel. Now you can think of the tunnel as essentially our arrows here. So we have our gateway set up, and we're creating our tunnel to reach out and touch the VPN gateway for network 2, which technically doesn't exist right now, but we can go ahead and connect one and then connect the other once we have the first one set up. So think of it as we're setting up the actual arrow right now. So for our arrow, we need to give it a name. Default name here is fine. We need to put in our remote peer IP address, and I don't have that yet from our reserved IP addresses, and that is this IP address right here. Let me actually go ahead and create a new tab and get our second IP address, and I will want to make sure to update that. Network 2 static IP. I'm going to copy and paste this here. A little small, but that's okay. And we'll copy and paste there. The font may be kind of funny, but we'll just have to deal with it. Go back to page 2. Okay, so our peer IP address is going to be the IP address for the other VPN gateway on the other network that we need to go ahead and jump into. And that peer IP address is going to be this 35.188.138.217. So this is it trying to reach out to the other VPN gateway to make that tunnel connection. Need to choose an IKE version. Now, IKE is a different type of standards for the IPsec protocol. Basically, just has to do some of the security stuff. Cloud VPN operates on IKE version 2. If you're not familiar with what IKE is, we don't have time to really describe it today, but just need to know that you need to choose that. However, if you're working with an on-premises router, like maybe say a Cisco Meraki router that only operates on IKE version 1, you have to be sure you choose IKE version 1. It has to match up with whatever resource you're trying to reach out to. Again, a little bit different if you're working with a physical hardware environment. Shared secret is basically your password. Now, there really is no limitations on what you put in there. You could put the word password if you want. By the way, don't ever do that. I have a complex example password down here. This is my secret. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste into there. And I'll just have to paste in the same secret when I'm creating the other gateway connection going the opposite direction as well. Next, we need to choose our routing method. Now, this is where things get very interesting as you have a variety of options. We're going to first demonstrate the static routing option. And what I mean by static route is, for example, if we zoom out a little bit, we have our three subnets here, 10.0.1.0/242030. We're going to statically or manually go ahead and set up these routes. This is not the preferred method, but I am going to still demonstrate it just to see what it looks like compared to the better option, which is Cloud Router, which we'll demonstrate here in a few minutes, which basically does everything automatically. So if we're going to manually add our routes, which basically says that to this VPN gateway, hey, once you get to this peer IP address here, you also need to know where your subnets are. So we're going to give you a route to this subnet here and to this subnet here. So we need to go ahead and supply that information. So we're going to go route-based. And we need to put in the remote network IP ranges. And that's going to be our two subnet addresses here. So that's going to be 10.0.2.0/24. Hit enter. We're going to put in 10.0.3.0/24. So we're now manually adding the routes to those two subnets once it actually establishes connection with the VPN gateway itself. Everything looks good there. We'll click on Done. And with that, we'll go ahead and click on Create. So once I've done that, just to kind of give you points of reference, I have created the VPN gateway, and I've created the tunnel, which is basically the right-pointing arrow going from this gateway out to this gateway that currently does not exist. So it's going to keep looking for something, not be successful, so it's just going to be kind of in the ether. Let's go ahead and do the other step of the process now, in which we're going to create our second VPN gateway for our network called Network 2. And we're going to go ahead and create the gateway and create the tunnel going back to the other one. We're going to basically do the exact same stuff, except in reverse. So while it's looking for a gateway that does not yet exist, we're going to go ahead and click on Create again. We're going to go ahead and give our gateway the name of VPN2. That works for me. This is going to be attached to Network 2, our network over here on the far right. We're going to go ahead and attach it to the region for US Central 1. I could do US East 1 if I want to, but for demo purposes, we'll do US Central 1. And we're going to use the static IP address I already have reserved that I just simply called it Network 2 static IP, which is, pardon me, that IP address right there, 35.188.138.217. Gateway is complete. Let's now make our tunnel. Sorry for the little menus that keep popping up there. This is going to be the arrow going from the VPN gateway over to our VPN gateway here. We are setting up the tunnel from one to the other. We need to put in the remote peer IP address. That is the IP address of... Did made a new page by mistake. The IP address of this VPN gateway here. That is going to be 35.203.170.165. It's going to be IKE version 2 again. Put in our secret, which is basically the password. I think it's still on my clipboard. Yes, it is. We are again going to do route-based. And our route is going to be our single subnet here, which is 10.0.1.0/24. Again, a lot of manual steps here. We'll make it easier here in just a minute. Okay, now that we have put in our route, we have our tunnel configuration set up in here. We're going to go ahead and click on Create. And at this point, we have now created both VPN gateways. We've created our tunnels, and now that both of those already exist, those two tunnels are basically communicating with each other. They're going to go through a handshake process, and then after about a minute or so, we should see a prompt that the connection is established, and we can go ahead and test it out. So good time to take a drink of coffee, and looking back at the comments here. Unfortunately, I'll be honest, I don't really know that much about point-to-point tunneling protocol. That's a good question. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not very familiar with working with PPTP myself. A lot of the documentation I read, though, basically says that you shouldn't be using it anymore because it's an older, outdated standard. I would maybe look into working with L2TP or also IPsec. One thing you might want to do if you're working with a CentOS distribution is look into some of those the open source VPN boxes you can make, like OpenSwan, Strong Swan, Libre. It's something. There's a variety of something Swan applications you can use that use IPsec for VPN. There's a lot of good guides out there that can actually go ahead and go over that. Actually, was kind of working on a side project. If you do a search for Google Cloud Strong Swan or Libre Swan, I've seen some really good Medium.com articles that talk about, at least from the Google Cloud side, how to create your own Strong Swan box, which is basically the manual version that we're using the managed service here for on a compute engine instance to be able to play around with that. Okay, this may be enough time. I'm going to go ahead and refresh my screen. Okay, we have our connection established. VPN Gateway 1 is able to reach out and touch VPN Gateway 2, and vice versa. Our routes have been manually added. So now we have two separate networks that previously could not communicate with each other. Now they can communicate as if they were on the same internal network. Let's go test it out. If we go to Compute Engine, we have our instances here. Instance 1 is on hello, zoom in. Instance 1 is on network 1. Instances 2 and 3 are on network 2. I'm going to go ahead and SSH into network 1. And it's going to take about 30 seconds to connect, probably because it's the first time I've done it. Okay, less than 30 seconds. And I'm going to first ping the external IP address of instance 2 on our separate network, which would have worked regardless because it is the external IP address. So it's 35.188.161.163. And no surprise, that works. Oh, actually, is it? 35.188.161.163. Hold up here, making sure. Did I not enable? You know what? I may not have enabled the right firewall ports. So let me go ahead and double check that real quick. I might need to fix my script. Give me 1 second. Little change here. Okay, I only allowed port 22. I did not allow ICMP. I will need to fix that in that script. So don't download the script quite yet. I might need to make a little bit of a change to it. Icmp Protocol is a protocol used for using the ping command. So if you don't allow it on the firewall, it's not going to go anywhere because it's not allowed. And once that completes, I will do the same for our firewall rules for our network 2. Okay, and we got port 22, which is great, so we can SSH, but I want to ping things. Okay, let's try that again. We're going to try to ping that external IP address, and that time it works. It helps if you actually enable the correct protocol for that. How about that? Next, I am going to attempt to ping the internal IP address, which would not have worked earlier because it was on a separate network. And that internal IP address is 10.0.2.2 for instance 2 over from instance 1, 10.0.2.2. And huzzah, that works as well. And if I were to turn off the VPN connection, that would stop working. So we made some good progress here so far. We have our VPN tunnels up. We have 2 VPN gateways. We have our tunnel up for VPN Gateway 1 to be able to talk to VPN Gateway 2 and vice versa over an encrypted tunnel. And we can communicate from one instance in one network over to the other as if it was on the same internal network. Cool. So what happens if we add additional subnets with additional routes? What's going to happen then? Let's find out. I'm going to go back to our VPC network screen. And within network 2, we have 2 subnets here already. I'm going to create a fourth or a third subnet in this network. And we'll just call it subnet, what am I up to, D? It's going to be in network 2. We'll do the US East 4 region. Doesn't have to be different regions, just doing different ones for demo purposes here. I'm going to go ahead and give it an IP range of 10.0.40/24. And then give that a second to complete. I'm going to create a new instance in that new subnet as well. And we're going to see if I can reach out from our network 1 to that new instance in that new subnet. And if it doesn't work, we're going to have to get it to work. Okay, we done there? Yes, we are. Call this instance 4. We're going to do US East 4. Any region's fine. F1 micro because I'm cheap. It's going to be on network 2. Subnet D. We'll give that about 20 seconds to come up. And spoiler alert, just because for demo purposes, it's not going to work. And the reason this isn't going to work is because when we create our VPN tunnel, we used static routing, which means we basically had to hard code in the different subnets we were going to. When we add a new subnet, this VPN gateway and tunnel has no idea that our subnet D even exists. So what's going to happen is that I'm going to SSH back into our instance 1 on our left network over here. Give it a second to come up. And I'm going to attempt to ping instance 4 on our subnet that's not hard-coded in. Say it's 10.0.4.2. It helps if I type it correctly. Let's try that again. 10.0.4.2. And it's not going to work because the VPN tunnel does not know that subnet exists because we did not specify that route. So, 2 different ways we can fix this. Number 1, we can go ahead and manually add the route. Now, the interesting thing about the Cloud VPN service is that you can't go to the tunnel we created just a minute ago and edit the route from there. It's pretty much just one and done. What you can do, though, is that when you create that tunnel, it creates routes for you. And these were the routes that we set up on the VPN tunnels themselves. It's in the routes page. And what we would then want to do is we'd have to create a new route. I'm going to go ahead and call it Route 3, just to make it nice and short. It's going to be attached to our network 1. The destination IP range is going to be the subnet of that new subnet we just created, which is 10.0.4.0, I believe. The next hop is going to be over a VPN tunnel. That's going to be the existing VPN tunnel we created. So basically what we did, I don't have it in here, but if you pretend there's a subnet D in the bottom right over here, we just created a new route where our network 1 VPN gateway is now able to see that new route that previously did not exist. And if we go back into Compute Engine, go back into SSH, I should really stop closing that window because I keep going back into it. If I try to do it did not work last time, and ping that internal IP address for instance 4, 10.0.4.2, it now works. And I will just not close it that time. Okay, so the problem was we added a new subnet, but we didn't have the route added, so the tunnel couldn't find that route, so we had to manually add the route. So that works, great. So if your network environment doesn't really change that often, okay, not a big deal. You can add a new route once in a while. If you're in an environment where you're adding on new subnets all the time, you have to keep manually adding on these routes every single time you create a new subnet for your VPN tunnel to be able to keep up. Blech, that's no fun. That could actually be really annoying, especially in a high-paced environment where network stuff is shifting around all the time. Bikram asks, is it almost the same as VPC peering on AWS? I believe so. I know, is that the name for VPN connection on AWS? Again, I don't know very much about AWS, my apologies. Assuming that VPC peering is basically VPN connections. Yeah. Rue Player DD, or sorry if I'm messing up your name there, asks, why can't you modify the VPN static route? We're modifying the route. Good question. So if we go back to our, let's see, VPN. These are the tunnels we made. If you click on the tunnel, it only gives you the info on the tunnel itself. You can't actually edit it. You can only delete it. When we're editing it, we're editing, basically where you edit is different from where you first create, just kind of how the service is set up. So after the tunnel is set up, this gives you the details on it. You can monitor it, but there's no edit button. If you want to add on additional route, that needs to be done in the routes menu, which when you create your tunnel, it's actually creating these routes for you. It's basically kind of like a managed service of mainly creating those routes. And if you just want to add on one after the fact, you have to go to your routes page and then go ahead and add on the new route from there. Now, would it be nice if you let you edit it within the VPN tunnel? Yeah, probably it would, but that's just the way it's set up right now. So give a suggestion to Google to go ahead and fix that. It'd be a good way to do that. Okay, so we talked about what a pain in the rear it is to go ahead and keep adding static routes. What if we could just go ahead and create our VPN gateways, but not have to worry about manually adding in those static routes, but whenever we removed a subnet or added a subnet, the VPN gateway would just automatically, with no input from us, go, hey, there's a new subnet over there. I'm going to go map to it. Done. Fortunately, we can do that. And that's going to be our next demo in using Cloud Router. So how Cloud Router works is that it's basically an add-on service for the VPN gateway itself. And there's a little bit more information that you have to supply to it as well. Cloud Router uses what's called Border Gateway Protocol. And short version of that is it's a protocol to allow you to allow a VPN connection to automatically see new routes out there and basically do the whole routing mapping process automatically. So, it just does it automatically. I mean, it's automatic. The additional information, so this is the new page, the new stuff, is we'll have to create 2 cloud routers. You have to give each of them what's called a unique identifier called an ASN. I forget what the acronym stands for, so don't ask me. You may have to just Google it. And you also need to give it a very specific internal IP range for the BGP protocol that we're going to have here as well. So for our demo, we're going to delete our existing tunnels. We're going to keep the existing gateways, but we're going to delete the tunnels separate from the gateways. We're going to create new tunnels, but this time, for our tunnels, we're going to create a cloud router, an additional component, give each cloud router a unique identifier and a BGP address, and that's going to handle the entire subnet routing process for me, pretty much automating all of it. So let's jump in. Actually, let me make sure I'm keeping up on comments here. Oh, thank you, Ashan. Appreciate that. How about the other way from new subnet to subnet 1? Yeah, actually, I'm Ruplay DDER. I'm sorry if I'm messing up your username there. So, yeah, if you went from the new subnet over to subnet 1, it'd be the same for reverse. What we would have to do is go to the route. Let's just go ahead and do that. So if I added a new subnet to our network 1, just call it subnet E or whatever, I'd basically just do the exact same process going backwards. I would go to our routes page for Cloud Router 2. And I don't actually have the subnet created yet. We'll just pretend for a second. I'm not going to actually create the route. Call it Route 4. This would be attached to Network 2. So if there's a new subnet on our left network, we needed to create a new route for our right side network. We'd give it the IP range for the new subnet on the left side network. We'd have to specify the hop, basically, what the connection is going through. And we would choose the VPN tunnel, which would be our arrow here, and that would go ahead and map that route over to the new one. So same process in reverse. Go ahead and add the route for network 2 going to the new subnet on subnet 1. You don't actually map the route to the subnet itself. It's basically mapping it to the overall network that would be using your VPN tunnel for a hop, which I hope that answers your question. Let me know if I'm a little bit off on that. Mohabil asks, can you discuss the 3 routing options in VPN? What are the differences? Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that real quick. Very, very good question. Thank you for that. Well, Cloud Router, we're going to go ahead and demonstrate here in just a second. We're going to go ahead and very quickly go over that. Let's see here. If I go to create, I'm going to actually fill this out. So we have dynamic, route-based, and policy-based. Dynamic is what we're going to do in just a second. So it dynamically finds those routes for you. And there's no option to add your additional subnets. Kind of think of subnets, it's the same as route. They're kind of like synonymous in this case. Not literally, but for demonstration purposes it is. Route-based is what we just did, where you add in your routes, again, your subnets. Policy-based was actually the default option before they added the route-based option. There's a lot of overlap between route-based and policy-based. You still need to manually specify your subnets, but you also have a little bit more control in which you can specify which of those subnets actually have connectivity. I'm going to be completely honest with you. The differences between the two is a little bit fuzzy with me. I think it basically just gives you a little bit more control over what subnets have access to your VPN network. So I would say that route-based and policy-based are about 95% the same. And if you look at the Google Cloud documentation for route-based versus policy-based, just do a search for Google Cloud VPN route policy-based. It gives a breakdown for there. Even like the little tables are like 99% similar. Basically, route-based and policy-based are both still being statically assigned. So you still have to statically manually specify your routes. So short version is, route and policy-based, you have to manually specify what subnets you're connecting to. Dynamic, it does it automatically for you. So excellent question on that. Thank you. Let me back up here a bit. We're going to do our cloud routers now. So we're going to demonstrate how to automatically find new subnets. What we're going to do first, we're going to leave our existing gateways. So we have 2 components. We have our gateways, and each gateway has a tunnel attached to it. You can have more than 1 tunnel per gateway if you want. We just have, 1-to-1, just, because it's simple to demonstrate. I'm going to actually leave my gateways in place. I'm going to go ahead and delete my existing tunnels. Tunnels are gone. My gateways are still up. My static IP addresses for each gateway is still the same as well. So this right here is the same as the previous page. Once those tunnels go away, and take a second, take another sip of coffee, we'll go ahead and do the automatic cloud router route. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this just a bit so you can see what we're doing. Right here is what we're going to be messing with. So I'm going to go back to my VPN gateways. We're going to go to our VPN 1, which is, again, the gateway for the left network, which is a little bit zoomed in too much at the moment. That's okay. VPN 1, we don't have any tunnels right now because we just deleted. I'm going to go ahead and add a VPN tunnel. Going to be mostly the exact same steps as before. We're going to go ahead and stick with the default name. The peer address is going to be the IP address for the right-sided network, which is our 35.188.138.217. 35.188.138.217. Going to put in our shared secret. Is it still on my clipboard? Nope, it is not. There we go. Paste that in there. So now everything's been the same so far. Now we're going to do the new step in which we're going to set up our cloud router. Now you can set up a cloud router through a separate page if you want. That's fine. We're going to do it via this method. So we're going to hit the drop down on cloud router. We have not created a cloud router yet, so we're going to go ahead and do that now. We're going to click on create cloud router, and we'll just call this cloud, want to spell, router 1, which is this right here. When you give it that unique identifier, someone typed it in chat, autonomous system number. Thank you for that, Mohabil. So it's going to be basically our unique identifier for it. It's going to be 65,000. Actually, nope, not there. That's a description. There we go. 65,000. If you click on the little question mark, it does give you the number range to work with. So it is a pretty narrow numerical range. We're just doing 65,000 and 65001 because it's easy. So we have configured our unique identifier for Cloud Router 1. Next, we need to go ahead and configure our BGP session. BGP is, again, Border Gateway Protocol. It is the protocol that makes the whole automatic subnet mapping process works. So we want to configure that. Give our BGP session, again, that's this section right here. Hello, mouse. A name. We'll just call it BGP1. The peer ASN is going to be the ASN number for our Cloud Router 2, which doesn't exist yet. We're going to fix that. And that number is 65001. So it needs to know not only what the VPN gateway address is, but also our Cloud Router 2 ASN and BGP address as well. So it's really kind of three pieces of reaching out and touching somewhere else that we're configuring here. This advertise route priority is optional. We're not going to mess with that. The BGP IP address for this cloud router is going to be this 169.254.0.1. Pretty narrow IP range to work with. We'll stick with some of the default suggestions there. 254.0.1. And the peer IP address is going to be for the Cloud Router 2, which doesn't exist yet, and that's going to be 169.254.0.2. Oh, we got to pause here for a second. We got a little warning popping up. Before we hit create, we get a prompt to turn on global dynamic routing for network 1. What does that mean? Let's go ahead and back up here a second. I'm going to leave this screen up here. But if we go to our networks, and this is the entire left and right side network itself, we have an option here for what dynamic routing mode that we want to work with. The default is regional, in which if we set up our cloud router, it's only going to automatically learn routes within the single region that you have it created. So we have 3 regions in our right side network. We want it to automatically learn routes in all 3 regions. So regional is not going to work for us. We're going to want to go ahead and do global. This is an additional change other than the default that you want to do. However, when you do that, you get a little pop-up saying that if you're using an internal load balancer over VPN, don't use global routing because that can mess stuff up. We're not doing an internal load balancer, so I don't care. But it is a little warning that pops up that you do need to be aware of. If you did have internal load balancing and you need to use Cloud Router within multiple regions, you basically have to create additional tunnels. It gets really messy, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So I'm going to save this. And once this saves, I'm going to do the exact same for our network 2 as well. Technically don't have to because we only have one subnet in our network 1, but I just want to be thorough. Bikram asks if these demos will be uploaded to Linux Academy YouTube channel. This demo will be available to watch afterwards, so I think about 5 minutes after the stream completes. You can just watch as any other YouTube video. If you are a Linux Academy subscriber, I actually go over this exact same stuff in the Google Cloud Architect Part 2 course, I believe. Also, I believe some of our other courses, the Google Cloud Essentials course and the Google Cloud Associate Cloud Engineer, I believe also covers VPN as well. So if you're a Linux Academy subscriber, we go into a lot more detail than this just outside the context of a quick live stream. Okay, that is done there. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for our network 2 real quick. Save that. Okay, done pumping the brakes. This error message doesn't matter anymore because we've already updated it. We finished creating our BGP session. So again, BGP session is basically this additional right arrow here. We configured Cloud Router 1 to communicate to the ASN, the unique identifier of our Cloud Router 2 that doesn't exist yet, and also BGP address. Everything looks good here. Let's go ahead and click on Create. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing for our Gateway 2, except it's just going to be everything in reverse. VPN 2, add a new VPN tunnel. The peer IP address for my left side network is 35.203.170.165. Shared secret. Yep. Fix that again. Come on. There we go. Going to go ahead and create a new cloud router for network 2 going to network 1. We'll call it Cloud Router 2. The ASN is going to be that 65001. Need to configure our BGP section. That is our left pointing arrow. So reaching out and touching this one over here. We'll call it BGP2. The peer ASN for our left cloud router is going to be 65,000. The Cloud Router BGP IP is going to be that 169.254.0.2 right here. And we're just basically, again, reversing everything. And the peer one, which is the one that's going to reach out and touch, is going to be 254.0.1. Again, notice I'm not configuring any static routes, just setting up the Cloud Router, and the Cloud Router is going to handle up all the routing on my behalf. Click on Create. Refresh VPN, because this is kind of a bad job refreshing itself. We're going to give that about a minute, and hopefully if I configured everything correctly, our first handshakes are going to turn into connection established, and we'll test that, and we'll be good. Let's look at comments here. Yeah, Sukhdeep, it is a IP range starting with 169. I think the designation is, it says it has to be like a link local /30 CIDR notation, which is basically 169, I believe. I may be a little bit off on that. How are we doing here? Okay, still handshaking. It takes about a minute, maybe a little bit longer with Cloud Router versus the static route because there's just probably more bits going on. Replay DDR asks, why does anyone go with static routing over BGP dynamic? Excellent question. If you go in Google Cloud's documentation, they actually say BGP dynamic is the preferred way to do it. Like, if you have the ability to do that, do that. Some, especially on-premises router, don't support BGP routing. Some of them support BGP routing, but only if being used as a pass-through, which, isn't very useful because what's the point then? But side project I've been having to deal with. So yeah, if both ends support it, do that. If you're working with an older router that does not support BGP routing, then I say get a new router, but that some people don't want to do that. Then static routing is the other option as well. So if you have the ability, do it. Otherwise, if you can't do it, then you got to do static. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Good question. Thank you. Okay, are we done yet? Hooray, the connections are established. Now, again, we did not do any route setup. I believe if we go to our routes here, it may automatically map them. Okay, looks like it doesn't actually have a name for the route names here, but these 4 here at the bottom, I believe, are the routes that Cloud Router automatically created for me. So I'm going to do a little test here real quick and add a new subnet over to our left network, and we're going to see if a new route automatically appears. Now, I'd actually not dry run this demo here in advance, so hopefully I don't demo fail myself. It would not be the first time I did that. We'll do subnet. What are we up to? E? I think we're up to E. And we'll do Europe North 1 just for the heck of it. We'll do 5.0. Everything's good there. Now, I'm not completely sure if it only maps it after you have a compute engine instance in that subnet. I don't think so, or even if just the subnet exists, it automatically maps that. I have a feeling it's the latter. You know what? We'll give it a second to find out. Let me refresh here real quick. Let me go ahead and create a new compute engine instance in our new subnet. And I don't even remember what region that was. Instance 5, where on earth am I at? Europe North 1. Cheap instance. Network 1, subnet E automatically created. Great. Hey, good comment, Rogerim. I've kind of experimented with AWS VPN a little bit, and just because I was so familiar with Google Cloud, I found it kind of confusing. In your opinion, which one, just for curiosity's sake, which one seems a little bit easier to follow along with you between the AWS and the GCP version? I'm actually kind of curious what other people think about that. Okay, now I don't know if that new route was added on because the instance was there, or if I just didn't wait long enough for it to automatically detect. I could have waited longer, but then you'd be basically watching me stare at a screen, which that's not very fun. So I went ahead and just ran with it. So we had 4 routes here. Now we have 5 routes. Again, I did not create those routes myself. The cloud router said, hey, there's a new subnet with a new instance on it. I'm going to go ahead and make a new route over there. That new route was actually from our gateway 2, from our network 2, automatically seeing our new subnet over here, which isn't actually on the chart. So it went ahead and created the new route for that, again, dynamically or automatically. So if I were to try to ping something from this machine here over to our instance in our newly created subnet, it would work because that route is set up. Yeah, and that's going to go ahead and conclude my demo today. I hope you found it informative and maybe slightly entertaining. Just kind of recap what we did is we demonstrated the managed Google Cloud VPN service for being able to create an encrypted IPsec VPN tunnel from one network over to another. Your options for doing that is to either use static routing, in which you manually specify your subnet routes, which is not preferred. We also demonstrated the more preferred method of using the Cloud Router service. Go away, menu bar. Nope. Oh, I hit a button here real quick. Sorry. Just going to pretend it's not there. To use the Border Gateway Protocol for dynamically creating those routes for us. All right, well, that is all I got. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, I'm going to go ahead and make these resources available for you. I need to fix that script with the incorrect firewall setup for the script, so give me about 5 minutes to do that. Also, from the video description as well, we have the Lucid chart here I was working with, so if you want to go ahead and study along on your own, that script's going to go ahead and create this infrastructure for you. So you can go ahead and jump in working with your VPN gateways, cloud routers, etc. I'm going to go ahead and fix the font on this one over here. So when you are working with it, it'll look a little bit better. Keep in mind, though, that your static IP addresses will be different because it creates new ones every time. So you want to go ahead and probably mentally sub those in as well. Creating charts and writing stuff down, especially with the side-by-side, helps me out. So I like having just for your sake, and also when I'm going along, I can just look at my little reference sheet here and say, oh, hey, this is my peer IP address here, and just type it in over there. Again, your static IP address is going to be different, so just kind of keep that in mind. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're not already subscribed to the Linux Academy YouTube channel, go ahead and do so. We do this every Thursday. Also, every Wednesday, we release our What's New in Google Cloud Weekly for the latest in news. Topic for next week, I don't know yet. I want to do Spinnaker. I don't know if we can pare that down enough where we can go through all of it in 45 minutes to an hour and not have to blow through it because there's a lot there. I can't make any guarantees, but I'm going to try is the key word here, do Spinnaker next week for automatic application deployment. If it turns out that's just way too much for a single demo session, I'm probably going to do something else on this live demo request. And again, if there's something that you want to see me demonstrate, I can't guarantee I'll get to it because we got a lot of requests here. Some of them are just too big for a demo. But yeah, go ahead and go to that Google form. I will go ahead and paste it again in chat. Go to there. Actually, no, that's not the right one. Hold on. Not response. I think it'll take you to the... Ignore that last link. Do that one instead. Well, I think it'll take you to the public forum. Yeah, tell me what you want to see. If you want to, leave your name and email address. And next week, I am tentatively going to go for Spinnaker right there. But it depends on how easily we can digest it. We'll kind of see from there. Also, if you are not a Linux Academy subscriber, keep in mind that we have tons more training than what you see here. We go into even more detail on Google Cloud VPN, AWS, all the cloud things, all the DevOps things, all the Linux things, obviously. We have a 7-day free trial, so you can go ahead and check it out. Also, we have free courses all the time. We got some Google Cloud courses free for the rest of this month. And we also have free courses that cycle out on a pretty regular basis that are free. So yeah, it's go check it out if you want to learn more about Linux, DevOps, and the cloud. With that, yes, RuPlayD, or sorry, I'm just going to say Replay. Sorry about that. We do cover VPN in a lot more detail, and specifically the Google Cloud Architect Part 2 course is the one I've done. Also, the Google Cloud Security Essentials course I covered in there a bit. I don't remember if I think I demo it in the Security Essentials course, which is also free, by the way, for the time being. And I think our Google Cloud Essentials and Cloud Engineer courses may cover those in some detail as well. A little bit of overlap, but different perspectives for different exams to prepare for. Definitely go check it out if you are a subscriber. And we got a lot more stuff in there as well. Rupla. Okay, sorry about that, Rupla. The username is throwing me off. Yeah, again, thank you all for joining. I'm going to go ahead and leave chat up here for a few minutes. If you have anything else you want to jump in, I'm going to go ahead and fix that script on the Google Cloud side. So give me about 5 minutes before you download it so I can get the firewall port stuff set up correctly. Also, keep in mind when cleaning up is that when you delete your VPN gateways, or if you use the script and don't create your VPN gateways, the static IP addresses will charge you $8 per month if you don't attach it to a VPN gateway. So once you're done, be sure to delete those resources, including the static IP addresses, or else you got to pay $8 a month for that. Oh, hey, Ram, I did set up a sample project in Google Cloud in a previous demo. If you go through our YouTube catalog, in which I think it may have been the second one we did, in which I demonstrated how to create a project using command line, and some of the other ones in there. I may flesh it out some more, because there's a lot you can do with a new project. You know what? Go to that link, Ram, and suggest it. And I can go ahead and flesh it out. And kind of, if you don't mind, put some detail about what exactly you want to see beyond just creating a project, if I'm not quite following you. So, yeah, go ahead and that forms pretty much like my main source of truth of what I want to do. So if you want to see it, go to the forum. Thank you all again for watching. I'm going to leave chat up here for just a moment, even though I closed the stream. If anyone wants to do any parting comments, and yeah, we'll go from there. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next week.